Hello all my JavaScript friends, this is the Virtuoid aka Mike Smith, and this is Fun with JavaScript, our racing game. The first thing we have to do is we have to create our project. As you can tell here, I've got a completely blank project. It's just got the git ignore, the license, and the readme.md file in it, which is what Git will automatically generate for you when you create a new repository. So the first thing we have to do is initialize with npm. This will create our package.json file. And of course, I'm just going to take all of the defaults here. There we go. Obviously, you would change it to where you need to change it to for your own particular project. And that should have created a package.json file, and indeed it did. There it is. So we've got the package.json file. The next thing we need to do is to install our dependencies. Or the next thing we need to do is install our JavaScript libraries. We're going to be using basically 4 different libraries here. We'll be using our Babylon library, our physics library, and our PostCSS nesting library, and a Vite library. So what are those? Now there are 2 types of libraries that we'll be working with here, dependencies and dev-dependencies. Dependencies are libraries that will be included with your final project. In our particular case, our Babylon, our graphics library, and our physics library, because that's going to be part of the actual product. Dev dependencies are libraries that help us with building that project. In this case, we'll have 2 of them, one for PostCSS processing and one for Vite. And I'll explain those here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and install our dev dependencies first. Actually, let's go ahead and install the dependencies first. And to install a dependency, all you do is type in npm install the save flag and then your library. In this case, we've got a couple of libraries. We've got babylonjs.core, and this library is the core library for our Babylon.js, and that's our graphics library. And through the magic of television, it is now done. We got 2 more of the Babylon.js we got to put in there. That's called loaders. This is the library that will help us to load in all of our models. And finally, Babylon.js materials. And this will help us work with materials, basically the skinning of a product. Finally, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add in our graphics library, and that is called ammo.js. So we'll install that. And all of these, because we had the save flag here, would have saved it inside our dependencies section of our package.json. And as you can tell here, there it is. And again, dependencies are libraries that are included with the project itself when the project is built. We do have 2 dev dependencies, and those dev dependencies allow us to be able to, or help us be able to build our projects, and that is Vite and PostCSS. Vite is the build system that we use, and that is just plain old Vite. Notice it says --save--dev here. That means it's going to go into the dev dependencies and not the dependencies. If you're familiar with Webpack, Vite is another version of kind of Webpack, for lack of a better term. Vite was created by the person who created Vue, and I like Vue, so I'm going to use Vite in this particular case. If you want to use Webpack, go straight ahead, no problem, no big deal. Vite does have the ability to be able to use PostCSS syntax within your files. Oh, nesting, not netting. But we need to be able to give it a hook to be able to tell it, where to find the software to be able to actually do that. And so we're going to install what's called PostCSS nesting. And this will allow Vite to be able to interpret a PostCSS file instead of a CSS file and basically help us build our system. And we're using PostCSS here because that will eventually be a standard within CSS. It's currently not, so we need some extra plugins to be able to help us write PostCSS. So when I go back to package.json, notice it is now installed inside dev dependencies. Alrighty, so we've gotten everything installed. One of the big things here is that we now need configuration files to be able to tell the PostCSS and the Vite what to do with itself, basically. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is our PostCSS config.cjs file. So let's create a new JavaScript file, and we'll call it post css.config, oops, .config.cjs. And that's for a common JS file, because this happens to be a common JS file and not a normal JavaScript file. So, and that's why we're using module.exports instead of export default. This is just basically saying that, hey, PostCSS, when Vite goes in there and say, hey, I've got a PostCSS file, what do we do with it? We got a plugin here that says, hey, I want you to use PostCSS nesting as part of your plugin. And Vite will say, oh, okay, cool, no problem. And that's it. That's all we need to do for the PostCSS. Now let's take a look at our Vite config. So to do that, we're going to create another file, JavaScript file, and that will be Vite config. And what I'll do here is I happen to have my FWJS-race repository in on another computer here, another screen, excuse me. So I'm just going to copy this configuration file in here real quick. This is what I just keep working with over and over again. It's very, very simple. I'm not going to go into the details of what it does here, but the real key is that it tells me that my root is going to be source. By default, it always starts with index.html, which we'll create in here for a second here. And I am telling it which HTML files to be able to compile. In this case, I'm going to compile index.html and trackpoc.html. These are not really necessary. I just kind of like to have them there just to, you know, kind of make everything as explicit as possible. Oh, and I'm sorry, also port 3000. I noticed when I went to Vite 3 that it changed the port from 3000 from 3000 to something else, and I didn't like that, so I kept it at 3000. And that will be it for the Vite.config. One quick test. Well, no, we won't test it quite yet. What I want to do here next is I want to create the different directories that we're going to need and create an HTML file and a CSS file and a JavaScript file to make sure that we can that Vite can correctly give us our development server, and which I'll talk about here in a second, and correctly see both the JavaScript file, the CSS, the PostCSS file, excuse me, and our HTML file. So give me a second, I'll create that now, then we'll get back to you. Okay, I've got the sample directories and files ready to go. Basically what we're going to do here is we got a source directory. Within a source directory, we have a CSS directory where all our CSS files are going to live, a JS directory where all our JS files are going to live, and finally my index.html where basically all of our HTML files will eventually live. And that's it. There's really nothing much there. All right, let's make some changes into our index.html file. Let's first of all point to our CSS file, and that's going to be FWJS-race. And remember, it's a PCSS file, as it says so over here, instead of a CSS file. And our script is going to be home.js. And notice that it's a type module. I do absolutely everything now in type modules. That helps. Takes everything out of the global namespace. Good Lord, I couldn't think of the right name. Takes everything out of the global namespace and puts it in its own little modularized namespace. It just makes life a heck of a lot easier to have to deal with. So I have this as a type equals module. Let's first of all take a look at our fwjs-race.pcss file. Let's make sure it works. So just to very quickly show you what the difference is for, actually what I want to do here is let's go back to the next main. Let's actually put something inside here. We're going to put an H1 and say hello world, and we're going to put a PID equals test, and I'll show you what happens there a little bit later on. So the idea here of trying PostCSS is that it's another way to syntactically represent a CSS file. So for example, let's say I want to put a let's say I want to put a gray background on the body. That'd be very easy to do. I just put body and put background color gray. No big deal. Now if I want to put a background color on, let's say, the main, of course, obviously I could do something like this. Main background color, I'll make it dark blue. But also, if I wanted to be able to have the main within the body, for instance, if I had a bunch of different mains in there and I just wanted to target just the main within the body, I would have this, body main. Well, as you can tell, if you had classes and attributes and things like that you were using selectors for, then this line here can get very long very quickly, and it can be duplicated over and over again. So, for instance, I wanted to change the color of the h1 inside of the main, then it would be this. So that's one of the things that CSS has had a problem with, is that although this works great, just taking a look at this, you can, from a maintenance point of view, if somebody else came in there, it could take them a while to figure out what the heck is going on. So what happens with PostCSS is that it allows you to be able to nest everything together. So for instance, if I wanted the main inside the body, I would do an main. And then I can move this background color here. And notice what's happened there is that by looking at this, I'm now basically saying, hey, main, I want you to just target the main that happens to be inside the body. Of course, all mains are inside the body, but you get the idea here. This means that I don't have to sit there and say body main h1, body main h1 dot this class, body main h1 dot this class, space, this particular attribute, colon, first child, whatever. I don't have to do any of that. I could just keep nesting everything, and it just makes them, from a maintenance point of view, so much easier. So if that h1 can go in right here, color white. Now, could I have kept it downstairs, down here? Sure. You can mix and match all you want, but this just allows you to be able to create a indented and easily maintainable CSS file. That's basically all there is to it. It just makes life a heck of a lot easier. So that takes care of our PostCSS CSS file, style sheet. Now we want to do the home.js to make sure that it's loading in our home.js. And so what I will do is I will take a look at test and put some text inside the test ID here. So to know that that works, all we have to do is, I'm going to do it the long way here. Test dom equals document get element by ID test. And then if test dom, you say test dom dot text content equals yes, I am seeing the JavaScript file. Come on, spell. There we go. So very simple here. I just get the ID. If it's actually there, then we change the text content. And so that should be it. We've got, I'm not going to worry about the icon. We've got the PCSS file, the style sheet. There's our title. We got some test text inside there. Here's our JavaScript file. Let's see if it actually works. We bring up our DOM and we type in npm run dev, and that's basically runs a script called dev that will run the Vite, and it will do basically a development server. And the nice thing about the development server is that it does a hot reload. So if I change something like home.js, it will immediately reload home.js, or if I change the PCSS file, it would immediately change all that, or the HTML, it would immediately change it on the fly. So you can see what's happening as you develop it. So if we do npm run dev, and it says it's missing the script dev because we forgot to change something inside our package.json. I forgot to put the scripts there. So let's copy those over. If you were to do a Vite init, it would automatically do this for you. But I didn't do that. I kind of just copied it manually. So there we go. There's the div, there's the dev, there's the build, there's the preview. I'm not going to go into details what it is. Vite's got great documentation online, so you just take a look at it there. So now it should work. Let's clear off our screen. npm run dev. And this is what it looks like if it is actually running. So how do we know it works? Let's find out. All right, so let's take a look at it in the browser. We type in localhost 3000. And there it is. Kind of hard to see the yes, I am seeing the JavaScript file because it's kind of blank there. Why don't we turn to the color green, kind of show you how the hot load works. But this basically, we do know now that obviously the HTML works, the style sheet works, and the JavaScript works because we're getting the file there. But I don't like that color. So let's go back over to our FWJS race.pss file. That happens to be, just to show you that you can have them both at the same time. Let's type in body, main, and that happened to be a P. That will be a color of green. How about green yellow? Why not? All right, I just hit Control S there. I'm just going to bring up the file. There it is. Automatically changed it for me. I didn't have to hit a reset, didn't have to do anything. So that's all there is to setting up the project. We've got our Vite, which builds all our projects. We've got our Babylon.js, which we haven't worked with yet, that's already been installed. We know that our build product is Vite is loading up our CSS files, and it's loading up our PCSS files, excuse me. It's loading up our JavaScript files, and it's loading up HTML files. So that completes the setup for our FWJS race. So in the next video, we're going to create that very first page where we will be able to drag and drop the cars into different slots to be able to tell the game which cars are going to race. And we'll show you how to save off that information so it can be read out by another web page. Hey, if you like this video, please click on the like button below or even subscribe to this channel for more content. We're trying to reach 1 million subscribers by February of 2042, and I would love to be able to reach that milestone. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Virtuoid, aka Mike Smith. We'll see you later.